So we have yet another edition of European things that would send Americans into a coma. And in this video, we will be covering a wide range of European countries. So make sure you watch the whole entire video so you don't miss anything. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this first video for Spain specifically.
I knew moving abroad would be like a culture shock and it would be difficult and kind of interesting. I have been living in Spain for literally 5 days. I haven't even been living here for a full week. To begin, I've already...
So before we go any further, I think I made this point in a recent video, but I just want to reiterate this. It doesn't really matter how long you are in another country. Whether you're in another country for 24 hours or 24 years, your experience and your opinion is valid. Now, of course, the longer you spend in a country, the more nuance you will experience, but at the same time, the longer you spend in a country, the more you normalize things. So, in a sense, sometimes it can actually be more useful to hear these culture shocks from people like this, who have only been in the country for a very short period of time, compared to people who actually have decades under their belt.
Fallen victim to their whole skewed time. I mean, it's not skewed for them, but like for me, it just feels so backwards. Like we don't eat lunch until 3 p.m. and right now it's 5 p.m. and people are still like out, but it's like they're not out for dinner. If you're going out to dinner at like 6, 7, 8, like that's early. Like I've been going out to dinner at like 9 and 10.
So I know I am definitely in the minority on this, but I am a night owl. This is one part of Spanish culture, and I didn't really get to fully indulge in this when I was in Spain. I was there for 2 weeks a couple of years ago, but that's one of the things that I admire most about their culture, is that they really just embrace and accept the whole night owl thing, the night owl culture. Granted, I think that my situation is a little bit different from your average Spaniard because, well, it's 7:19 p.m. as I'm filming this video, so I guess 19 p.m. And I haven't eaten lunch yet. So again, my life and how I operate throughout my day is a lot different. But at the very least, the notion that in Spain they normalize having later meals and they normalize going to bed at a later time, that really appeals to me.
Fashion-wise, all of the women are wearing high heels, like everywhere. We're on cobblestone streets, and I knew Spain dressed up like a little more than maybe more European countries, or especially more than California or the US, but they're wearing heels like on the daily. Also, not to mention,
so as far as fashion goes, that was actually one of the first things I noticed when I visited Valencia back in 2023 again, was that people there just dressed exceptionally well. Now, to be fair, I lived in the Netherlands for 14 months. I've also been to Belgium, London, and Switzerland, all for around a day each. I didn't really notice any of those places having significantly better fashion than any other place. Granted, maybe I'm not the best reference point because if you haven't noticed by now, I literally wear pretty much the same exact thing every single day, either a black t-shirt or a white t-shirt. So I am by no means an expert on fashion. But even I could tell that overall, European countries put a lot more emphasis on fashion than the US does. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think a large part of that is because people tend to walk more and they're just seen more in public because they're not spending all their time in their cars.
the teenagers here, I'm also in a city, but like the teenagers here have like full range freedom. I'm not from a city, so like I never experienced that, but I feel like at home, if you're a teenager growing up in the city, I know you have like more freedom, but like here it feels different. And like the teens are like walking around, like they look like they're also going out to the club. Like there's like 12 to like maybe like 16-year-old kids walking around, and they're way better dressed than I am. Like they look like they're going out to the club, and like the boys are wearing like button-ups to go, and they're like out and about, and it's like 10 p.m. 11 p.m.
So again, I think this has a lot to do with the fact that you can walk places. The fact that you know that you're actually going to be seen out in public. It's not really a coincidence that in the US, New York is known for having the best fashion. It's because it shares a lot of that European layout in terms of having the pedestrian infrastructure and promoting walkability in public transit. So I think that's just a natural consequence. Whereas in a place like Texas, for example, where I grew up, where pretty much no one is taking public transit, or at least anyone with the means to not take public transit is taking public transit, people don't put nearly as much emphasis on fashion.
School starts at 9 a.m. Amazing. It ends at 2 p.m. Phenomenal.
Wait, it starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 2 p.m.? See, when I hear things like that, or for example, in the Netherlands, the fact that children literally just, I think it was either they didn't have school on Wednesdays or they got out early on Wednesdays. I think they got out early on Wednesdays. When I hear stuff like that, I'm not going to lie, I do get a little bit salty. I get a little bit salty hearing stuff like that because that was not our schedule at all.
The teachers that I'm working with don't eat lunch at school because why would they? Like they barely eat breakfast. So school gets over at 2 p.m. and they go home for lunch. There's a 30-minute break in the middle of the day, but that's like their snack. Like they don't eat lunch. So they're like, you can bring lunch because we know you Americans will like your time is different. But like we're not gonna eat lunch. I don't know if that's like meant much of a culture shock, but like it's just things that I've been noticing.
So comment below where you're from and what time people typically wake up and eat at. Because again, I'm not the best example for your average American because I probably won't be eating lunch until 10 p.m. today, and then dinner probably sometime after midnight. But I know that in the US, people are more often than not eating lunch at around noon on average, I would say. Maybe even 11 a.m., depending on the person and their individual schedule. So things do tend to operate a lot earlier. That's something that I definitely look forward to the next time I visit Spain. On to the next video where we will be touching on Sweden, and in particular, Swedish showers.
I just took a shower in Sweden, and Sven, explain yourself. Who was in the boardroom?
So, wait a minute. She couldn't wait to at least dry herself off and put some clothes on before filming this? I mean, I understand in Europe, nudity isn't nearly as much of a taboo, but I mean, come on, you could have definitely waited another 15 minutes to film this.
And was like, this is the design. We're gonna add a door, no floor, no ledge. This is the design, just this. And was like, approved. Has to be finance, because the only way I can make this make sense is cutting costs.
Wait, I don't understand what she's complaining about, because it looks to me like you have a divider between the shower and the toilet. It's really all you need, right? I mean, am I missing something? I understand that in a lot of places, the US included, generally your shower is going to be closed off. Also, I don't understand, is this in her apartment or something? Because I don't see the issue with not having a specific shower door, especially if you have an overhead shower head that comes directly down, because you're not really going to get a whole lot of water on the floor like that. I don't know.
That is crazy. With Swedish design being as genius as it is, that makes no sense.
Maybe my brain isn't working the way it's supposed to, because again, it's 7:26 p.m. now and I still haven't had lunch, but I mean, I don't see an issue with this. I'm still struggling to really wrap my head around what's bothering her. You have a divider in a lot of places, as I found, as I've traveled to more and more places, they don't even have this. They'll literally just have one of those detachable shower heads, which I've actually come to prefer over these types of shower heads, but different discussion for a different day. You'll have a detachable shower head literally right next to the toilet. And I'm like, that doesn't seem sanitary. That to me, that's kind of crazy. And I will say that that seems to be especially common in older places. But this doesn't seem problematic at all. I know that when my girlfriend was doing her internship in Valencia, which by the way is the reason why I went there in the first place, to visit her, in her apartment, basically the shower door did not seal the water out and it would flood the bathroom every time she showered. Every single time. There was nothing she could do about it. So that seems like a design flaw. This honestly doesn't seem like an issue. I don't know if I'm just perceiving this incorrectly, but let me know if this is normal where you're from, or if you see something wrong with this setup, because to me, it's just a shower. In fact, it actually looks kind of cool. You have the cool curved glass and whatnot. I like stuff like that. On to the next video where we will be visiting France and specifically addressing work culture in France.
Alice, why are you calling me? Because you haven't been responding to my texts and emails. Yes, and the workday is over, so I can legally ignore you.
They are not playing about that work-life balance out there at all. The right to disconnect is an actual legal right. And not only is it a legal right, from what I understand, it's a legal obligation where employers literally cannot contact you after your workday is over. But what I want to know, and if you know more about this, then please enlighten me in the comments, does that also apply to your coworkers? Does it apply to coworkers as well? In that, of course, your boss can't contact you, but can your coworkers contact you after the workday is over?
Isn't it only like 6 p.m. in Paris? Actually, it's 6:08 and I stopped working at 5, so make it quick. Well, I'm trying to get that meeting scheduled next month with that potential funder, and I don't see any availability in your calendar in August. Yes, I'm on vacation. In France, nobody works in August.
So this is something that I've noticed in actually a lot of European countries, at least the ones I'm familiar with, is that it seems like a lot of people take their vacation at around the same time. And what I want to know is, what type of impact does this have on the local economy? And of course, not everyone in all of Europe is taking their vacation at the same time, but I vaguely remember reacting to a video maybe a month ago where someone was showing their workplace either in Sweden or Denmark. I don't remember which one. But basically, they were in the office in July, I believe, and there was nobody there. They were the only people there in the office because everyone apparently takes their vacation in July in that part of the world. So I guess in France, it's August. Also, what I want to know is why and how do people determine what month they're going to take their vacation? Because I've never actually worked at a proper 9-to-5 job that had salary and vacation. I only ever worked service industry jobs where you kind of just ask for time off, but you don't get a set vacation. And now I'm self-employed, so I kind of just take vacation whenever I want. But I know that for most people, they have to sort of coordinate that with maybe their family schedules or maybe the weather patterns. How do you determine, first of all, where are you from? And second of all, how do you determine when are you taking your vacation from work?
How is that even possible? Because in France, we have a minimum 5 weeks of paid vacation. 5 weeks? I don't even have that with my vacation and sick days combined.
That's another thing right there. In the US, you literally have a limited number of sick days. It doesn't make sense. I know I keep pausing the video. I apologize. I'm just really intrigued by all of these differences because growing up, this was actually a thing in school as well, where if you missed a certain number of days, you either had to go to summer school or you had to repeat the grade. And I think in 7th grade, so from ages 12 to 13, I had a bit of a stomach problem. It's kind of understating it. And I missed something like 29 days because I was sick. I missed 29 days of that school year. And I think if I had missed one more day, literally one more day, I would have had to have attended summer school. So there was a day when I still felt sick, but I forced myself to go to school that day because I was not going to summer school under any circumstances. So if they're doing that in school, rest assured they are doing that at work as well.
And sick days? What is this? You know, like the number of days the company says that you can be sick in a year? No, we don't do this kind of bullshitting.
When you say it out loud like that, it just sounds extra ridiculous. It's like, oh yeah, you're only allowed to be sick 20 days per year.
In France, if you're sick, you go to the doctor and stay home. You know, that does make more sense, doesn't it? See, if I were you, I would just get everybody together, threaten to shit in the river or burn down the city or something, and bim, boom, workers' rights. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm good.
Yeah, maybe the better solution is to just move overseas. For me, that's how I solved my problems. Instead of trying to change the world I was in, I changed the world I was in, so to speak. On to the next video, speaking of changing worlds, where we will be visiting Denmark.
I'm an American living in Denmark, and here's something that was a big change for me. My social life. Completely different in Denmark than it was in the US. In the US, I feel like most of my social life revolved around eating out, going to restaurants. If I was gonna hang out with a friend or a group of friends, we'd probably go to a restaurant. I would almost never have anyone over to my apartment to eat or go to someone else's for dinner. In Denmark, we do sometimes go out to eat, but it's much more likely that if we're hanging out with friends, we're gonna go to their place or they're gonna come to ours.
So that's an interesting one. I wouldn't have really expected that because, to my knowledge, Danish people are very, very introverted. So I would imagine they would set more hardcore boundaries about who can come over and whose house they want to go to. But then at the same time, as an introvert, I also understand that once you establish connections with people, usually you're like this. You're really, really tight with them. So I guess that does make sense. But I'd also like to know where in the US she's from, because depending on where you're from in the US, a lot of times that's really all there is to do, is just go out to eat or go to the movies or just hang around in the park playing sports or whatever. I know that in Dallas, where I'm from, that's basically your only options. You can do those things or you can go to the mall and shop. It's all built around consumerism. Whereas in a place like New York, for example, you're gonna have access to a lot more cultural amenities, albeit at a premium price.
Someone's gonna cook, and it's gonna be like a 4, 5, 6 hour thing. And this is partially because restaurants are more expensive here, and it's also a lot more hyggelig to eat at someone's house. It's a little more cozy, more.
So Danish people have basically their version of gezellig for Dutch people. If you're from another European country outside of those two countries, let me know what your version of that is, if you have a version of that. That word for cozy and intimate and relaxing.
Intimate, and it is really nice, honestly. But when I first moved here and we would go to like a family or a friend's place for lunch or dinner, I was shocked at how long we would spend there. I'd be like expecting to be there 2 hours, but we'd get to hours like 4 or 5, and I'd be like, when are we leaving? I'm used.
So as an introvert, I completely relate to that. I don't really like to spend extended periods of time around the same groups of people if I can help it, especially in a confined space like someone's house. But at the same time, I can see how that can be a lot more appealing than being in some crowded restaurant where you have to tip 20% because the people who run the restaurant don't want to pay their servers an actual livable wage.